What's up everybody, you're watching the From WordPress to Statamic YouTube channel. My name is Michael. In this episode, I want to talk about taxonomies. You might remember that we went over taxonomies a little bit in the video on querying content. The link should be up here somewhere. But we didn't talk about how to start them in the first place. So I'd like to talk about that today. But first, let's go explore WordPress just a little bit to compare and contrast the experience of what it looks like to create taxonomies. Now, first of all, I'm just going to go over to this Generate WordPress website, which is where you can get a bunch of code if you want to throw stuff into your functions.php to add things like post types or taxonomies. Now, if I wanted to do a custom taxonomy, there's nothing in the UI that lets me do it. So I need some sort of function like this to create my taxonomy with all of the parameters that are involved. And this is just a basic version. If you need to do other things with routing, you might need to do a little bit of editing to this kind of code. Now, plugins like ACF Pro might have this built into the UI now. So if you're leaning on a plugin like that, which is paid, then you probably don't have to worry about this part. But otherwise, to use taxonomies, you're going to need to write a bunch of code. If you're really smart, maybe you can abstract this into a function that you can reuse if you don't want to write this every time you want to register a taxonomy. But we'll let you guys figure that out on your own. Going into the dashboard, just going over here, one of the things that we observe with our taxonomies like categories and tags is that they are associated with a particular post type right here in the menu. There's no place where you can look at all the different taxonomies in one place. I have to drill down into the different kinds of post types in order to access all the different taxonomies that are there. But let's jump over to Statamic now. Going into the dashboard, I have a taxonomies option right over here in the left-hand menu. Now you can see I've already got a few taxonomies working in our test site here. And the way that I'm using it, for example, for this people collection, is just a series of tags like this. And I can click on one and we can see all the different posts that are associated with these traits. But why don't we start from scratch with a new taxonomy and implement that from the beginning. I'm going to come back over to here and I'm going to create a new taxonomy. And let's imagine for our people that we want to display some sort of status. Are they available, or are they busy, or are they employed or unemployed, something like that. So let's call it status. Now, if it's just going to be a single value, maybe you want to lean on a field instead of a taxonomy, but maybe we want to group them according to the taxonomy at some point. That's where we might use something like this, especially if a person could have more than one status. So let's create that taxonomy. Okay, now that I get to this screen, you can look over to the right-hand side and see, wow, there's this new status YAML file. There's nothing really in it, just the title of it, but we know that taxonomies now exist in our system. Now, let's configure the taxonomy. I'm going to go over here to configure. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to associate it with my people collection. I'm going to leave everything else for now. And now you can see that YAML file has updated a little bit, but we're not going to get into that just yet. Now, if I was to go examine a person entry, let's just take a look and see what's going on over there. I'm just going to go take a look at Sam here, and I can see that there's this new status field. Now, I don't have any terms associated with my taxonomy just yet, so there's not a lot to choose from. So why don't I go back to my taxonomies, and I'll go to status. And let's just create a term. Now you'll see that there's already some fields here, and we can edit the blueprint for taxonomy just like we can with any other collection. These are the ones that we get out of the box. So we're just going to leave that for now and not worry about all the different fields. So I'm just going to call this first one available. Let's save that. Let's make another one unavailable. Maybe that's enough for now. So let's go back over to people. I'm going to go to Sam. I'm going to go down to the status here again. And I'm going to say that he is available. Now let's go back here. And Michael is unavailable. And then Joe, we'll say that he's available too. Okay, now that I've done that, I can go back to my people page and I can maybe replace these things with my availability. And you can see over here now I have this subfolder under taxonomies that lists the different terms that we just created. Now there's not much there either, so we're not going to worry about that either, but we have the title. Now I'm going to go into my views, and I'm going to find the one for this page that we're looking at here, which is people, and it should be the index. Here's an example of how we can output any of our taxonomies. We can use this taxonomy keyword, and then after the colon, use the slug for the taxonomy that we want to reference. So I can replace this with status. And I should get all the terms for status. Save that, give it a refresh, and there we go. I have available and unavailable. And if you look closely at the very bottom, you'll see that they're hinting, because we get the URL and the title for free over here. And if I were to click on one, right now it doesn't work, but in theory, I could create a template for this. So why don't we do that? I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to go into my views, and I'm going to say, let's create a new folder, and we'll call it status. And let's open a new file in there, and we'll call it show.handlers.html. And let's just put the title in there. Okay. I get that refresh, and lo and behold, I get the information that I'm looking for. Now, if I was to change my URL to unavailable, let's just change that in the address bar here. Whoops, I didn't spell it right. Let's try that one more time. Unavailable is our actual word. There we go. And now we get the title for that one as well. Now, what's going on here? Let's go and look at the configuration and see what we can figure out. Okay, so if I go to my taxonomies and my status here, let's go to edit. And I can see that we've assigned it to people as well. And the default template system leans on this structure where it's the name of the taxonomy and then show, or the name of the taxonomy and then index to give me my list. So if I were to create that, let's just try that right now. Let's call it index.antlers.html. And now here in my index file, I can reference the name directly. I don't have to say taxonomy status. I can just say status and then list all the terms that way. So let's put it in a list. Whoops, that's a little React autocomplete. UL, and then we'll say status, and we'll close it off, status. Close that UL, and then we'll say title, and that should do the trick. Now if I go back over here to the front, and I can say status, just like that, and now I get my index view right here, just to prove I'm not lying. Give it a refresh. There we go. So I have my index view in which I can list all of the taxonomy terms just by using its slug here in the tag pair. And I also have my show, which is showing the individual one. Now I can link to that if I want. I can say, wrap this in an anchor tag, href equals, and we'll close it off over here. And that's going to be the slug, or the URL rather. Oops, can't type today. What's going on? Okay, let's refresh that. Okay, now these are linkable, and we can't see that so well, so why don't we just add a little bit of CSS. Let's just make it the underline for now. Now we know that it's a link, and I can link directly to the show page for that term. If I wanted to list all of the things that are associated with this term, for example, I could do, collection, people, and then the taxonomy, status equals, and then we'll get the slug from the URL. This is a lot of work. Maybe I don't even want to do that. I can just do something like entries. And this will get all of the entries that I want to list. So let's say, get the title. And let's put that in a UL as well. Format that just a little bit. and give it some margin for good measure. And let's see what we get. Okay, so these are my entries. Sam and Joe are both available. And if I was to go back and check unavailable, then I get Michael, which is exactly what I want. Okay, so we've done the basics of setting up our taxonomies. We've created some views for the index and the show page to list out the taxonomies and then to show the content for that one term. I can list out the entries for that given term pretty easily. Now, if we wanted to talk about things like taxonomies being hierarchical or stuff like that, we'll touch on that in a separate video. But for now, you should know the basics of how to create a taxonomy, associate it with the collection that you want to, and then output the terms both on the collection page where you want to show them and on their own index and single pages as well. That's all for today. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my newsletter. The link is in the description. Catch you next time.